Good morning, Internet. This is Alan, and I'm a bonsai junkie. And that's why I'm thinking very seriously of changing the name of my channel from Woodcrest Bonsai to Bonsai Junkie. And this is a perfect example. I have these ilex shillings. I have 18 of these trees, all basically the same size, and that's only one group of 6 different groups of ilex shillings that I have. I have some massive trees that I haven't even shown you. I did one that I dug out of a hedge. Then I have 2 different batches of trees that I purchased in 3-gallon pots as landscape plants. Then I have these guys. Then I have another even smaller group that are growing in the holes in cinder blocks, and they're not doing that great. I may modify that soon here. And then I have brand new tiny cuttings that I just took this year. So anyway, as in the first series, I'm going to do the same trees that I featured only a little more than a month ago, and all in the same order, so to get some continuity. This guy is the first tree. It's in a really beautiful pot. I love this pot. Handmade pot, just really pretty. And the tree has grown considerably. The new growth is elongating very nicely. And so there's some things right away that I want to address. And one of them is trying to maneuver my feet so I don't fall on my face. Maybe I should clean up my work area. Wow, what a concept. So I'm going to cut these guys just a little tiny bit. Up in here, I think I really need a little more, so I'm going to wait on any of this. You see how this one is shooting up into here, so I'm going to take these guys off. And if I'm not mistaken, in the video I did last month on this tree, this was going to be a sacrifice branch, but even so, I don't want the growth shooting way up. And who knows, I may keep it. And then we have some growth here on this branch that I want to shorten. And this is the time to do this. And this guy here. And one thing I would really love to change on this tree is to get more stuff in here. And that's possible. So actually I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to cut it to that leaf, because that leaf is pointing horizontal. So when I cut it to that bud is going to grow horizontally. Because right now you can see it's really the apex, and this is the apex I want right here. So I'm going to cut that guy to right there. And then our back branch just needs a little trimming. And this is not too early to do that. If you want your trees to be really nice and compact, then pinching off new growth when it's really young. See, like right there, see that little tiny guy right there? That has popped just recently. So that will make this branch that much thicker, that little extra bit of growth. So I like this tree. It's got nice movement the way I like it. It's also got nice movement to the front and the back. It's got very nice nabari, although probably not perfect, but shillings are just such great little guys. They just make the fat little trunks so quickly. And that's one of the reasons I like them so much. And of course, there are other reasons why they take to being grown in a pot quite readily. They have a naturally small leaf. I mean, this is the biggest leaf that you get on a Shillings, even if it's a 4-foot high hedge. And they break back off of old wood, and they're just so easy to style. So I'm going to do 6 of them again today. So this guy's number 1, and that's all I'm going to do on him today. This second tree is in a pot with a little scroll work. Very nice rectangular pot. And this has a lot more growth than the last one. And it looks a little busy, but that's because we have a back branch that has all this growth. So if we take that off, then you can see the style of the tree is a lot easier to look, to see. But I want that sacrifice branch mainly to heal over this huge scar. You can see the vellum beginning, and keeping this branch and letting it elongate and will help to heal that scar. This is another one that, as I said in the last video, it has 2 parallel branches, and I'm still not sure which one to take off. And actually this growth here that's shooting straight up, which I almost always reduce, is coming from this branch right here. So I'm going to take that off. I'm going to treat them both like they're going to be potential branches. My first main branch also has some growth that I want to remove. Then I'm going to I've got a kind of a stub right here. So I'm going to take that stub off and then let this smaller growth and also give me some interest in the branching. And now this branch here is on the outside of the curve. So I'm looking at this branch coming off, and I'm getting this little tiny piece of growth right there. Could fill in over here. And then when I take this off, that could be another branch. And I've got some smaller growth. I'm going to take this off completely. It's just too large. Yeah, I've got some smaller growth right here that is moving to the back. So if this branch comes off, I can still create some fullness in the tree. So I'm leaning closer and closer. So I'm going to chop him way back to keep in this one as branch number 2, removing this one and then allowing these little guys, especially this one just sprouted off the trunk, fill in. And it's also got a few flowers that haven't really opened yet. But once again, Shillings is a male sport, so the flowers are, they're sort of pretty, but we will not be getting berries because they're the male. And the male hollies only provide the pollen. The female trees have the ovaries where the eggs, where the seed will mature. And of course then you get the red berries, the famous red berries that hollies are famous for. Those are all female trees. But once again, if we actually have a white piece of paper with a bunch of scribbling on it, but if we go like that, then there's the tree. Wow, that really darkens it up. My camera's like, what's going on? What's wrong? So that whole thing is leaving, which then makes the design of the tree a lot more apparent. But I want to keep that guy on to heal that scar. So that's number 2. Tree number 3 is a very nice little tree. I left 3 different branches, all to elongate right at the same point in the trunk, so I've now got a knob there. And if we look, we've got even more growth. So if I let this elongate, it's just going to make the knob that much worse. So I'm going to take him off. That's all brand new growth, so I can just pop that right off. And we've got our classic branch structure that I like. And it's one thing that I would like to do is we don't have anything in here, but I've got all this little growth in here that I can now bring into that space. And that will give the tree a lot more depth. And you can really see how much these guys have sprouted just in the month. So I'm going to give this all a haircut. Some of this area in here could probably be thinned out even more. But for today, I just want to give the growing tips a little tiny bit of a pinch. And this second branch was kind of weak, but now we've got this coming out and I just pinched it, but now that's going to fill in the canopy. I want this one too to be out here and this one to be out here. And this kind of trimming is something that once you've got a finished tree where you like the way the tree moves and the way the branches are, this kind of trimming like this goes on for the entire rest of the tree. You're constantly keeping it in shape, removing things that are not part of the design and accentuating the branches that you want to keep as part of the design. And so finished trees, as they say, ones that have nice trunk, nice branching, they still require maintenance. And this is really the essence of bonsai right here, is taking a tree that you like the way it looks and keeping it that way. So that's the next one. And I'm okay with the knob there. I'm not going to change it. The only way I would really be able to change it is to just take like some spherical knob cutters and just chop into the bark so profoundly that it would form a huge scar, and it would probably be worse off if I did that than just letting it stay the way it is. So for now, that's what we got. This next tree is much taller than the other guys, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit on this guy. There we go. And this is a tree that when I was doing it the very first time, someone commented that I missed the opportunity to produce a really cool little tree. And I had branches here that I could have created a pretty cool little tree. But I thought I'd do something different. And I'm kind of liking this guy, actually. This is going to be a sacrifice branch to attempt to alleviate some of the stovepipe. So the sacrifice branch will thicken the trunk from where it comes from the trunk down. And this tree has not really sprouted the way the others have. It's got the beginnings, and I really like the way it moves, and I like the branching. So there's really not all that much to do on this tree yet, because it just hasn't grown as vigorously as some of the others. And that's cool. So yeah, this guy really needs to, things need to elongate, then I'll cut them back. But I wanted to show you the group as a whole in the same order. And so then, every time I feature these trees, they'll all be in a group, and you can watch the development, the changes in the development on each of the trees. So that's it for this guy. So contrast that last guy with this guy. He is considerably smaller. Oop, there's my fingers. So we're going to do that. But it has also grown tremendously. So here's a perfect example of breaking off of old wood. This entire little branch has emerged since this spring. And since my branches are already in place, this one here has no business being there at all. So it comes off entirely. And part of my philosophy on bonsai is I want space between my branches. As John Naka so famously said, for the birds to fly through. So all this stuff here gets cut just a tiny little bit to keep it from getting too high up here. This branch is pretty heavy, so this branch here could use to be a little bit thicker and fuller, so I will leave some of this to do that. And then most of the rest of this tree just really needs to have that new growth reduced so that it'll just become thicker and fuller. So this tree here, and I don't know, maybe I zoomed in too much. There we go. So I really want this branch here to be out like that. So it's got a really nice canopy, especially here. We have the really nice canopy. All these points form that point of the triangle, but then when we come here, it's missing in here. So this tree will look much nicer once this branch gets out to about here. And that's why I left these guys to grow. Let them grow out to here, then cut them back. And once this tree is finished, like all these leaves that are still attached to the trunk, that's because it's just still a young tree. When this tree is older and considered more of a finished tree, here's another piece of growth right there that is also totally unnecessary. It is interesting how some trees sprout much more aggressively than others. So all these older leaves that you see, and now here's another one coming off the trunk. That's because it's a young tree. When it's an old tree, all the foliage will be on the branches and the trunk will be clear. But I like the movement of this tree. It's also in a very nice round pot. Pretty decent nabari. Not much over here, but as a slanting trunk, the nabari on this side that balances the tree is more important really than over here. But I really like that tree. So that's all for him. And the last one of this bunch, which also needs a little tiny bit of zooming out, is this guy. This is in a plastic training pot. They're molded in the shape of a bonsai pot, and they make great training pots. And you could probably grow a tree like this in one of these plastic pots. They have lots and lots of drainage holes to compensate for the fact that they're plastic, because they don't breathe. And this tree, the last time I featured it, I decided that the front was going to be somewhere in here. So the next time it gets repotted, which will not be until next winter, because I repot Ilex Shillings only when they're completely dormant. So now that this growth has emerged and is beginning to elongate, repotting this tree would be very stressful. But this tree has great nabari, just absolutely fantastic nabari, just shooting out in all directions. It may not be absolutely perfect, so there's like this guy right here. This root right here is sort of coming across this one. But overall, fantastic nabari. So if this is the front, we still have these parallel branches here. And I think I had said, maybe I'll just use my hand, because when I put that piece of paper up, the camera just went weird. So and this is about as big as the leaves get. That's a huge leaf on a Shillings. So we've got this branch here, and then we've got this branch here that's right on the outside of the curve. If this is the apex, but I could very easily take all of this off like that and use this as the apex, and then it would come back this way. This would be the first main branch, and that would create a whole bunch more taper. See, this branch here, if this were the apex, it's not that much thinner than this. So I'm very seriously considering that, is just removing all of that. Or the other thing would be to just take this off. Maybe I'll come around this way and continue with the tree like this. And it's a kind of a thing where I've just really haven't decided. This would make a nice tree. It would be much larger. And maybe that's good. So for now, just do the maintenance on the things that I know. Like, I don't want branches coming up against the grain. So this little guy here gets shortened tremendously. And with the first, well, I guess this is the first branch. Well, that could be a sacrifice branch, actually. But this branch here is also very heavy, has a lot of growth, but we have this guy right here. And if I went this direction with this guy, then I would remove this very large branch and promote that guy. So it would totally change the tree. And, you know, for the better probably, because you'd have more taper, thinner branching. This branch here that's so thick is going to begin to compete with the trunk, and over time that can end up looking unnatural. But since it's in training right now, it's the kind of thing where I don't have to do it right now today. Although I'm leaning more and more and more towards the smaller tree, taking this off, taking the whole apex off, and developing the tree from there. It would be, you know, I hate calling it starting over, because it's not starting over. It's just deciding to change the design of the tree. And once again, over time, it will probably end up being a nicer tree with better dimensions, better proportions. And bonsai is all about proportion. That's when you look at a really, really nice tree and you say, wow, I love that. That's because the proportions are just in the perfect position. So there you go, 6 more shillings, all sprouted in the past month. And quite a few of them have much less confusion than this guy, but having a little bit of confusion on a tree. These are young trees. They're still only about 3 years old. So there's nothing wrong with waiting until you've decided what it is you want to do. And that's the case of this guy. The other 5 are pretty close to how I want them. And there will not be any major changes in the design over time. They're just going to grow and develop basically as they are. So thank you for watching. I will leave an end screen with the video previous featuring these same 6 trees, so that you can click on that and watch that. And subscribers that hit the notification bell will be able to watch these guys continue to develop. I plan on keeping all 18 of my trees as groups of 6. So this is group number 2. And that's about it for today. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Leave a comment if you'd like. Do you have a favorite of any of these? Let me know. So thank you so much for watching Woodcrest Bonsai.